Greetings! I'm Roger Newbold, and welcome to episode number 38 of the Experienced Photography Vlog. My fellow photographer, my good friend, my partner in this endeavor, my editor for this episode is Mr. Matt Rich. He's got the keen eyes. He surveys the entire situation. He approves of all that goes on in this thing. He makes all of this vlog project operational. Are you there, my friend?
Hey, Roger, you like my keen eyes?
Excellent. In our most recent past episode, we exposed many techniques. Get it? Exposed. About enhanced and intensified photography. We did some live cycling around through the cemetery and came up the cryptic avenue. We hope you collected some new tips, some new advice, some encouragement to try something a little different, to get out there and wander, even if it's a cemetery. You know, I hate to admit it, but at some point, somewhere in time, everyone has been accused of point number one today. We're going to be looking at 6 to fix. And here is number 1. That's when you're just a smidgen too chatty on the job, you are. You know, like flowing liquid, fleeing its captive space. It's difficult to control. Pick a little, tick a little, talk a little, pick a little, cheep, cheep, cheep. As stated so well in the song from the Music Man, we don't realize how much of our time goes down the drain. You know, the impact of number 2 is also serious, and that's being disorganized. It is difficult, really difficult, when you work from home or when you're self-employed, that you have all this seeming time, but if you are disorganized, it becomes a problem. Who often struggles to maintain separation between personal and the professional boundaries of their life? A lesson hard learned as I began taking on clients. A messy workspace and overloaded equipment bags just hampered. I mean, it totally put in disarray everything I did. Excessive stimuli. It made it difficult to work, to be productive, and it just amplified the stress. Boy, I couldn't stand it. Not only do you waste time trying to get back on course and refocus, but you're spending the precious time, looking for a lens or a tripod or whatever it might be, any other items for your work. You just burn time, and time is money if you're self-employed. Assuredly, none of us can have too much time to do our own work, do the things we really got into this to do, to start with, to have fun with. Let's look at number 3. The social media. Whoa, what a culprit. Along with other online distractions, they're a huge problem for many people. It's estimated that people spend around 2 hours every day just winging around on social media, and this number is only increasing. Not only does it waste time, it shrinks your productivity. It can also lead to mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression. Why isn't this getting done? Because I'm spending too much time playing on Facebook or something, Much of that time could be spent doing personal photography and doing what you like, getting rid of the anxiety. Now, number 4 is self-detonation. Sounds easy. And it's understand that you don't want to disappoint others. But it simply is not feasible for you to keep everyone happy. Impossible, matter of fact. You're doing yourself a major disservice by saying yes to everyone that comes along and asks for help, or can you do this for me, and can you help with this, can you speak at our, whatever it might be. You just spread yourself too thin. Be honest with others and inform them. You simply don't have time right now, for anything more. Now, later I can get to it. If I schedule it in over a period of time, I can get to it. But right now, I'm sorry, I have to say no. Now, naturally, I'm a helper and a pleaser. I'm a teacher, and I've learned that you're not required to set yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. Maybe you have noble ideas and many great projects. Nevertheless, nobody knows how bound up you are. Givers learn to set limits. Why? Because takers have no limits. Despite the appearance of being assertive and objecting, defending one's own rights can make others respect you if you do it nicely. So just object nicely, reschedule, work it in. Don't kill yourself. Now, number 5 is simply being ineffective. Learning to use your tools effectively, you need to, learn to work smarter, not harder. If you're lacking in Photoshop skills, take a class in Photoshop. If that's slowing you down, editing and enhancing your images has become absolutely just as important as learning good camera techniques. Get help where help is needed. Join a photo group. Learn. This is important. Learn from studying. You just don't simply sit and look at a print and think, how can I do better? You got to study it. What is wrong? What is lacking? What is needed to make this better? How can I make things better in my personal work? Study it out. Ask questions. Listen. Take notes. I hardly ever see anybody sitting around taking notes. I've got at least 20 of these little pads that we've talked about before from Moleskine. I keep notes about everything and how to do this. I take notes. I read books. I review the book. I take notes on the book. What's the point if you don't learn something? Write something down every single day. Now, come on, test out some new options. Learn some new techniques. Make more and improved photographs. One of the very worst uses of time is to do something, extremely well. But it didn't need done at all. And that's number 6. This, my friends, happens to be one of my all-time biggest time wasters and money wasters in my life and in my photo career. Of course I learned from it. Maybe a bit wee late, in my case, but here's a warning to young photographers, young in years or young in career. Like crime, constantly chasing technology does not pay. At least not well. You're paying for it. Here's a picture I took in the early 1960s of my grandmother. You know, it's adequate, especially for the times. You know, I could have gotten rid of competing heads in the background, and if I'd been smarter, I would have. Quality-wise, it's standard for early color negative materials, and the lens was standard, and the photograph was standard, and it did its job of remembering a special event. But a few decades later, we discover a shot about halfway into my let the hair grow long cycle. Yeah, 31 inches of hair. That's a lot to take care of. Not so much anymore. A typical 1990s color negative. You know, the materials and the camera and the lens choice was all adequate. The photograph did its job. A reminder. It was a special event. It was for Anne's family, my wife. It was her father's 80th birthday. She said, "Wear the best you have." I did. After many years of photographing and using digital hardware, I took a birthday picture of one of my granddaughters. Now, I'm glad to have it. She lives in New York currently. Matter of fact, she graduates from high school this year, and you can never have too many good memories. This photograph was made here with a Wisner traditional field 4x5 camera, shot on transparency film. It was made during one of the workshops that Matt and I ran for, how many years, Matt? Boy, a lot. Down around the Grand Canyon in southern Utah. It was one of those days when the weather just cooperated. Not much wind, not much flutter in the camera bellows. It was good sun, good clouds. You know, and usually when you get all of that together and you get under the dark cloth for 20 minutes looking at an upside down image, you're attempting to compose a great concept. This is when somebody walks in front of you and decides to stand for a half hour. Hey, he won't mind. He's been standing there for a long time anyway. Yeah. It's hard to get a great shot when you're using a view camera. You know, they think you're a statue. And it's not moving. They surely won't mind. I did. A photograph of me and Michael Kenna. Here we're together in Carmel, and we're discussing our past in the United Kingdom, our lives from in England, and what was going on, where we lived, where we traveled, what we saw, and what we did. A great chat. It was nice digital capture. It was my camera of choice at the moment, and I simply handed it to my friend Jeff, and he got a snappy-roo picture of me and Michael Kenna together. Thanks, Jeff. A couple of weeks after one of our now famous week-long workshops at the north rim of the Grand Canyon, Matt and I huddled over a burger in Salt Lake, and we were discussing the events and the success and possible could we do betters of the recent workshop. And this was taken using the camera of choice of that day. It was my first APS-C size sensor digital camera, you know, and it did an excellent quality. The final photo here is of me and my daughter on her visit last summer from New York. Don't get to see her very much. I handed the camera off to my granddaughter and she snapped the picture using my latest version of the APS-C, which is now my go-to camera for video and stills. I love it. The point I'd like to make is, and make it very clear, that every camera I've used worked. They all did an excellent job, whether they were film or digital, regardless of format size, from the tiny APS-C to a gigantic 8x10 film. The big ruckus over how many pixels or megapixels or super jumbo pixels are necessary in an image to get it published, or the film had to be at least 6 by 7 centimeter, it had to be super duper fine grain, it had to be, hey, the battle's over. You don't have to worry about it. If, and I stress if, an image contains great content, they'll publish it. Look at a magazine. Look at the TV news. It is about content. Did I capture something worthwhile? Did I capture something well with whatever I had? Nobody cares if you took it with Cartier-Bresson's very own Leica, or with Ansel Adams' 8x10, or even if you had an ugly movie clip, and I mean ugly movie clip, like the Kennedy assassination. It's content. It's content, and it's content. Why do we have pictures of our family and our friends and our vacation? Because of their content. The things that we want to see, the things we want to remember. Why does that marvelous book of Keith Carter or Michael Kenna keep selling out? I mean, these guys are pumping out books. Why? Because of their content. They make great images. They travel. They go. They do. They see. They work. They work really hard at what they do. I implore you to spend more time thinking of how to generate a more powerful photograph, to lead a deeper, more fulfilling life than simply discussing ball scores at the water cooler. Be more organized. Be direct in your affairs of life. You know, actually, look where you're going. We really can spend less time on the web, and I guarantee you, you certainly will not perish. Don't burn yourself to please everybody else. Be effective as possible with your time and your pursuits. Now, hopefully, you'll have noticed a parade of cameras that has constantly been marching past due to today's episode. Now, to the best of my recollection, the 50 cameras that you witnessed traipsing on were cameras that I owned. Today, I own and utilize 3. Each camera because they have separate and distinct usage. I have a full-frame digital Canon. It's excellent for my landscapes. It's excellent for architecture, and anytime I have high-definition needs at 50 megapixels. I have a brace of lenses that will work with that camera, including the tilt and shift series. So they work. They are marvelous. It's just like having access to a smaller view camera. and moves a little faster. You don't become statue in the field. Now, they have super wide, super long lenses that make images more impactful. And my normal zoom, it's just handy. There are no zooms on a view camera. I use my Fuji X-T4. It's my APS-C size camera. Smaller format, smaller sensor, but I use it in a manner just like I used to use my Leica or other point-and-shoot cameras that I previously had. It's fast, it's small, it's versatile, it doubles up, it produces supreme video in addition to grand stills. And my latest addition is the DJI Pocket Osmo. I picked up a used model and I use it to collect the short video clips that we do in the field. Now, Matt and I have had a brilliant conversation about this particular point. Concerning fix number 6. We can say there's a limit to upgrading your equipment. There's a time limit. When a new feature comes along that technologically is vastly superior, and it will make a conspicuous difference in your work, maybe it's time to update. It may do both video and still, or it might be the big jump from 8 megapixels to 45. It might be something you need to do in going to mirrorless. I don't know. There becomes an opportunity to upgrade. Of course, you knew there would be a caveat. If you can afford it. My lesson learned was that the envy that I had for all of these was only in my mind. I bought and I sold, I traded to have the latest, greatest toys on the market. Now, very few made a whopping difference. I remember the Canon A1. It made a huge jump in combined flash technology. Using that camera with flash, on or off camera, it had new technology. And it worked. And it was stunning. The others, not so much. The view camera phase. I loved Ansel. And when he said you had to go from a 4x5 to an 8x10, of course I did. But it was so big, so heavy, so lumbering. I took far fewer shots. I spent a week in Yosemite and I shot less than 100 images. Oh, for the time back. Great images, but they were nowhere as adaptable as that of my Canon today. So, our advice to you is, hey, you don't need to fill every peg on the pegboard. Well, can you? Sure you can. If you'd like to. If you can afford it. Oh, and if you got a Sherpa and can carry it. In hindsight, I'd rather saved all of the frivolous dollars that I spent for show toys, and I should have traveled more. I should have thought more. I should have expanded my own life in other ways. Now, my final thought to you here is, choose wisely, grasshopper. Well, our time has come to an end for today. Matt and I hope we have provided you with a thoughtful presentation, something that will stimulate you to think and see differently, better, and get out and work harder, be more appreciative. And if you have appreciated this vlog, well, subscribe. Help us multiply our abilities to help you and others. Share this with a new friend. Spread the word. Give us a big thumbs up. Tinkle that little bell for future notifications. Please, remember the act of creation is an attempt to enter into that mysterious realm. Reach out for superlative content. So, until we meet again, my friends, tip of my hat to you, and cheerio.